Look, I know we stand between you and lunch, so we're going to try and make it as fun as possible for all of us. I don't have a witty opening story like Palak had when we started. But let me at least attempt to frame what we are going to try and do in this particular panel. All of you know this, but as we approach some of the key milestones with respect to climate change, it's become very clear that India, of all countries, is going to be extremely susceptible to the negative impacts of climate change. And this puts us in direct conflict with our own goals of becoming Vikasit Bharat. And why do I say that? Because at least the modeling that we've done suggests that if we don't take urgent climate action, we as a country will stand to lose $35 trillion in cumulative GDP by 2070 alone. However, if we do take some sensible actions, which all of my panelists will agree they're already on the way to, we actually could add almost $11 trillion of additional cumulative GDP by 2070. And if you take that into account, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail later, if you take this into account and say that as India seeks to grow, it's clear that our value chains are going to be integrated, not just across the country, but also regionally and globally, right? So this is the crux of what we are trying to address in this particular conversation. We're going to try and get perspectives from our esteemed panelists. They represent retail, consumer products, auto, and heavy industries. And so I'm actually really excited at the learning opportunity, frankly, because we'll have different perspectives coming. And we'll address three specific themes. The first one is going to be on balancing growth with green objectives, right? So growth with green. The second one is going to explore sustainable sourcing and circularity. And the third one is going to look at innovation and technology, right? So those are the three themes that we'll explore. With your permission, maybe we can get started. So if we start with the first one, and Bipin, I'd probably like to start with you for the first question. Marico being obviously not just a leader in the industry, a dominant player in many ways, but also from your vantage point within Marico, what are some of the practices or best practices that you might recommend especially for consumer product companies or FMCG companies as they look to scale their operations while staying committed to sustainability?
Thanks for the kind words, Viral, for the organization. So I represent company Marico. We are into FMCG business and our products are into beauty and wellness. India being a very dominant market for us. However, we are present into other Asian and African countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Egypt, South Africa, and Middle East. So coming back to your question, I think most important thing is the first principle of sustainability, which starts with materiality assessment. And one has to understand that what are the real risks and opportunities which are lying with your business. If you are able to sharply define top 3 to 4 objectives for that, and then ensure that you are having a measurable targets for those things, then I think it works as an enabler for your business growth rather than sustainability being run as a parallel process to create some yellow page stories for the stakeholders to show off. If you are able to connect these two things properly and utilize this tool as your enabler, then one can take it through. Just to give an example, for Marico, 85% of our businesses raw materials are coming from, say, agriculture domain. So the 8 focus areas which we have, 2 of them are one definitely for the water stewardship, where water security is one of the important aspect to it, and second would be sustainable agriculture, how we can ensure that we started with coconut farming, but for other segments also. So how you are able to integrate and support those sectors As your organization goes, I think the other, your sustainability targets can also help you to grow further and reduce risk in that area. We can discuss further, I think, as we go ahead.
Thank you, Bipin. So important to know that, your sustainability strategy is not divorced from the business. It's not something that goes on in a silo, but has to be well integrated. So thank you for that. So Thakur, let me come to you next. From an auto industry perspective, obviously hard to abate, critical for the country, and obviously at the forefront in many ways of the decarbonization journey. What are some of the challenges that you believe that the auto industry in general has with respect to sustainability, and what are some of the things that would be your top of mind recommendations or actions? And you can draw upon the experience of the TVS group itself.
Sure. First of all, thank you organizers to give me an invite and having this type of a discussion. So if I have to break these challenges into three verticals, which is from environment, social and governance perspective. On environment side and specific to the carbon, I would talk about scope 3, category 11, which is use phase emission mapping and reducing this over a period of time. Because that's the time when the rubber hit the road and our vehicles start to ply on ground. Still, if you see the portfolio of commute, which is for either two-wheeler, three-wheeler or four-wheeler, penetration of EV is only 5% or 6% overall. And 95% of the ICE engine vehicles which are plying on road, I would say there is no mechanism by which any of the automotive industry can map it that how many kilometers each vehicle is flying on ground. So when you can't map the kilometer, everything is guesstimation and estimation. And that is huge. If tomorrow there will be a legislative requirement that since you are emitting, you will have to map and you have to abate. In that perspective, the challenge is the mapping and then key accounting, I would say. If you start accounting it, you will start improving it. Right? On social aspect, more concern aspect is related to tier 2 and tier 3 supply chain, which is MSMEs, those who are even producing a single bolt or a specific component which goes into the vehicle. So if I today disintegrate my vehicle, there are 300 parts which will come out. And small parts are coming from those small scale industries which are there around us. In a pursuit of Make in India or a Viksit Bharat, in last 4 years, automotive industries have ensured that 90 to 95% of the value chain is brought back to India within 500 kilometers. And automotive industry work on a just-in-time model. So which means you have to have your industry close to yourself in the vicinity, near around. So how to ensure that the social dimension is taken care in terms of labor aspect, in terms of child labor, in terms of harassment, in terms of payment, wages, labor, working hours, safety, basic amenities. These are the challenges from the social dimension point of view. And the third aspect is on the governance, which is within the fence and beyond the fence. What we write in SOP, are we doing it in the same fashion? Or what we are doing it, is it written in the SOP or not? So it is ethics and compliance is very important thing. So which means that every single person in the organization should be the true brand ambassador in terms of making sure that we live up to the values and move in the direction of the vision of the organization. And this is true for any organization, be it two-wheeler, three-wheeler or four-wheeler. So I see these are the three specific challenges from environment, social and governance perspective need to be addressed and should be part of the strategy when any organization look forward for setting up a very strong cadence around ESG.
Thank you. I particularly like the bit around working with the smaller, the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers, and also kind of building their capabilities because they may not have that level of proficiency. So thank you for that. Surya, let me come to you next. Represent a large conglomerate with fairly diverse businesses. So I would almost see Grasim as a conglomerate within a conglomerate, so to speak. So how do you work across various business units within Grasim, but also then across other Aditya Birla Group companies? So how does that dynamic work? How do you, align goals and set targets, etc.? How does that work?
Thank you. This is a very interesting question. When I took up this role, I'm the first CFO for the company. And I was also very confused, like how to manage this, because each of them are very diversified companies. The one thing that what we have done was that we have put up a convergence of all the CEOs of these respective SBUs under Grasim. And just now, as we are speaking, I finished that meeting and came for this quarter with the convergence with all the CEOs and MD of the company. There we are monitoring each and every aspect of the sustainability, along with other compliance like legal compliance and financial compliance, etc. Sustainability is also a major topic which we discuss, and we spent a fair amount of time. So governance is very key in this case. So our team really dedicate a lot of their energy into sustainability. So there we are driving all the targets. What each of the SBU has done their own materiality assessment, and then they came out with what are the most important elements for them, and then accordingly they have derived their targets in that. Similarly, at a company level, we aligned with the group levels targets on the decarbonization. So we have then internally each of these business, because of their own sectorial requirements, they have taken internal targets, but largely aligned with the group level targets and the company level targets. This is how we are working, and at a company level, when I'm presenting the intensity targets, there is a bit of a challenge because products are very diversified. The numerators are very different. However, we could able to come up with the larger product that we are making in each of the SBU. And that as a denominator, we are able to do the intensity, and which is largely accepted. So we monitor the intensity, we monitor the absolute targets, and also we take the targets as per the SBU's materiality assessment. And then at a company level, we try and publish these targets. And at a MD level and at a CEO level, we monitor which is most important element for us in terms of our sustainability journey. What is that it will take us to the next level. So last 2 years, we have seen fair amount of success in this, because all our ratings have been improved by various rating agencies, be it Sustainalytics, be it CDP or somebody else, DJSI. And also, all our investors are shown a lot of faith and interest, because we are now being able to report in a structured manner all our large KPIs and also our targets. So that's how we are managing it.
Thank you. So Kiran, I know you will resonate with some of this about driving some of these targets, but tell us how the process works for you within the Mahindra Group. I know you represent auto and farm division, so anything specific to that would obviously be insightful for the participants as well.
Yeah.
Maybe the one thing you can also tell us about is how do the scorecards that you guys have developed perhaps translate into improved employee engagement and so on. So maybe throw some light on that as well.
Yeah. So thanks for that. So the important point is what we thought. Like in the previous panel discussion, Chandni and the HSBC person was talking about how we can put it in the business scorecard and how we can link the performance bonuses of top management. But our view was, why only top management? Why not everyone else, right? So what we did was, typically what process we have is we have a business scorecard, like all of the organizations. And all the white collar employees, 50% bonuses are coming from the achievement of the business scorecard, and individual performance is 50%. So in the business scorecard, there are 10 goals, 8 to 10 goals, depending on each year's priorities, etc. And those are clear business priorities. Now we wanted to establish a case that ESG should be a business priority in that, right? And we have, within auto farm sector, we have different businesses. So we have manufacturing of auto, we have manufacturing of electric vehicles as a separate business, farm manufacturing as a separate business, and there are few other businesses within. So like Surya mentioned, we also had to do that exercise in terms of what is material or critical for each business from the business risk point of view, etc. Then what we did is, we wanted to see that how can all the employees contribute to these goals, right? So what we did is, scope 1 and 2, typically the contribution will come from the manufacturing side. Then we went to the product side because for auto industry, and Thakur will agree with me that product use life emission is the biggest emission for scope 3. So then we wanted to take the R&D materials and design team into picture. So we had a target on the scope 3. So we are, because we have already a target for SBT, but we wanted to take a very simple target ki at least you have a clear action plan and clear roadmap, and if you achieve that, you will get the level, a good level in the scope 3. Then the remaining part was the supply chain, because supply chain again is a critical element, right? And we want to first drive our employees, and then in turn they'll drive the supply chain upstream and downstream. So then we took a target on decarbonization of the supply chain. So these 3 targets are sitting in our business scorecard. So we think it's a big achievement because it's continuing from last 3 years. So it's not a 1 year, you try something. So that's good. Specifically for EV, because the focus on EV, where we are also looking at the just transition, because we are also signed the 2X challenge for our EV business, 4-wheeler EV business. So we had taken a separate goals like gender, then again supply chain there, because EV supply chain, not only from the environment perspective, but also for the social and governance perspective, considering the battery and everything. So we have taken target there on the supply chain, and typically on the EV, we are starting with a lot of design for sustainability aspect. So we have taken a life cycle assessment and design for sustainability target specifically for EV, and that also goes again in the business scorecard for that particular business. So this is how we have defined the process, and we are continuing on the process. It is dynamic, like we'll keep changing on the business priority changes, how the ecosystem is evolving, etc. And another part I would like to mention is there is a good support after this from the management also. So like Dr. Anisha is so the system what we have is we have a sustainability council. So Dr. Anisha and each of the business president is part of that council. So be it auto president, farm president, logistic president, everyone is part. Now if they have to spend 1 hour with Anish on sustainability, so they have to look at, what are the targets, etc. Now to define these targets again with Anish, we had a sign off from each business on what are the 2030 goals. So we have a strategy signed off on each year, and Anish specifically said you have to don't write English, but you specifically write each year what you want to achieve. So what we have done is for each year, and we did this exercise in this year, and we got it signed off from each business president, and we have defined target on each year what we are going to do, say on decarbonizing of supply chain, on the material circularity, and each business whatever the priorities are. So I think this was a big shift that we have done, and we observed a lot of involvement because people now understand it is important because it is getting a place in the business scorecard. So that's how the perspective also has been changed.
No, that's very useful. Thank you. And I think it's great that the CEO himself is driving this across, which emphasizes the importance that the group attaches to sustainability. Nishant, I don't think Flipkart needs any introduction to this audience, but being the dominant e-commerce player in the country, you also have a very large ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, not just on folks on your marketplace and the delivery, but also the Flipkart group, if I may say, also has many different businesses. So how has sustainability been driven within Flipkart to align, ensure that there is consistency, but also the different business elements are also incorporated? So if you can share that with this group.
First of all, thank you so much for curating such a wonderful panel, and I was just hearing everyone speak, and if I can just take 30 seconds before I can come to the question. Just look at this panel, right? There are brands like Marico and Aditya Birla Group, which create such wonderful products, which are then retailed or sold on platforms like ours, and using the wonderful products that are made by organizations like Mahindra for the long haul and the last mile using TVS, right? So this group in itself kind of captures how consumption, once a customer clicks on buying a product, what happens before and after, So great, curation of the panel. Coming to what you asked, I think the first and the foremost element that we started our journey was through the materiality work, to understand the length and breadth of our own work and group, and understand what are the areas which we impact and the other way around that impact us the most, right? That was one. Second is the GHG computation, to understand in what ways are we actually contributing in scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and basis an amalgamation of these two, we have figured out what the areas of critical importance. Transportation is of course one of them, energy, electricity is another one of them, waste is another of them. So a lot of these parameters came from these two base work streams that we conducted. And thereafter it was fairly simple, because simple from the perspective of identification of topics, but then once you instrument measures to measure and track progress on all of these initiatives, it becomes relatively simpler for each of the group entity like Myntra, like ClearTrip, like Jeeves, like Flipkart, Marketplace, all of these entities to figure out in what ways can they contribute, right? So for example, fashion would, Myntra would take up more initiatives around materials that are used in fabrics that are then getting sold to the consumers, whereas Instacart, which is the logistics arm, then takes up more initiatives around electric vehicles, right? Then the facilities team takes up more initiatives on electricity and how do we transition to renewable energy. So I think first the base work is done. Identifying the topics of interest and topics of impact is done. Then the measurement and tracking progress is what we do fairly religiously. And the other element that then kind of binds us are some of the commitments that we have made. So EV 100 is a commitment to ensure that all our last mile delivery fleet is electrified by 2030. Then we have RE 100 commitment as well to say that all our electricity needs will be coming from renewable energy by 2030 again. So when you have these external commitments, then everybody in the organization any which way guns forward to make them meet. So yeah, so that's the process that we've been following, and then of course there is a governance process in place to measure progress that we are making, and we report to the senior management, we report to the board to share the progress, and yeah, that's those are some of the things that we are doing to make some sense of the madness, because the complexity can be really huge. Yeah.
Thanks, Nishant. So as we move on to theme number 2, and by the way, looking at the clock, realistically, this is probably the only other theme we'll be able to address. Let's stay with you, Nishant. So tell us a little bit more about circularity, both in the context of that as a business opportunity, but also some of the initiatives that you have in place.
So circularity manifests in our in the Flipkart group in multiple ways. One is of course that we have a business called Flipkart Reset, which uses this as a business opportunity as a whole, right? So all the devices that the consumers return to us as part of their product exchange offers that are available on the platform. So they give in the old device and we take it and get the new device, right? It could be mobile phones, it could be appliances. There is a business called Flipkart Reset, then refurbishes it and then sells it to more customers. So what that does is, of course, there is a huge market, and all of us are aware of the huge market of the second-hand products that are available in the country. And that not just makes it more affordable for a lot of customers who wouldn't have access to those products, but also extends the life of the products by a drastic number of years, right? So that bringing it back into circulation itself is a huge business opportunity that we have seen witnessing growth multifolds. The second one is, wherever possible, integrating circularity into our internal operations, which may not be consumer facing, but are internal to our own operations. And there, the work around waste and packaging is extremely critical for us. So the cardboard boxes that get where the products are kept to deliver to the consumers, those cardboard boxes are using the circularity principle. So our warehouses would receive shipments from brands in big carton boxes, and our packaging team, and what they have done is that they have actually integrated that with the packaging vendor of ours to say that, can you repulp it and bring it back into circulation? So our packaging material that we use in cardboard boxes is actually from the bigger cartons that we receive, and it used to be going to waste many years ago, but no longer. So it's completely circular that way. Similarly, for water, again, we have installed a lot of water recycling plants wherever our facilities have the space to accommodate that. So those are some of the areas where we have integrated in our own operations, apart from treating this as a business opportunity for extending the life of the devices that we buy and sell.
Thank you, Nishant. I thought the repurposing the larger packaging, the tertiary packaging into into your own boxes was an interesting one. Kiran, switching to you now, tell us a little bit about some of the initiatives that you have. I think both on the end-of-life vehicles and batteries. Share some light on that, please.
Sure. So end of life is a new regulation, EPR, which came into force from 5th of January, I think. We're working on this regulation with government since last 1 year. I was part of a technical committee and I was looking at how the ministry is thinking. So the entire focus of the legislation builds around creating more recycled steel in the system. And that's how the end-of-life vehicle regulation involves how much you recycle the vehicle. So the regulation is like whatever vehicle we sold 20 years back or 15 years back, take those vehicles back, there is a certain cap on the percentage and then recycle those vehicles. So now there are recycling vehicle scrappage facilities should be there to recycle the vehicle. That's one. On the supply side, we should have scrap vehicles. In Indian ecosystem, how it is working is there is a lot of second-hand sale happening, right, at a better price. So you can't really see where are the scrap vehicles. As per Vahan portal, if you see, there are more than 90 lakhs or around 1 crore scrap vehicles should be there, but you can't really see it. Where are the scrap vehicles? You can only see below some of the flyovers, etc., but abandoned vehicles, but otherwise you can't. So at Mahindra, we have a subsidiary called Mahindra Seru, which is into vehicle recycling. It has a capacity of 1,20,000 and expanding, but we have only recycled 15,000 vehicles till date. Because we don't get vehicles. So the entire take back program has to be developed now in the sense that how we tell consumer what are the benefits for recycling the vehicles, and there are benefits because there is certificate of deposit and you get certain exemption in certain states again on buying the new vehicles, etc. So there are some benefits and it works. What has happened in this space is there is no obligation on the consumer. Even the vehicle scrappage policy talks about 15 years old vehicle, you just re-register and then drive it. And even if you don't re-register it, the fines are not very high, like people are driving it otherwise. What we are doing is we are building a very strong program, a take back program with our entire dealer network. And we are going to run a big marketing campaign for building awareness in consumer, why it is important, what is the purpose of this, and how they can also benefit in the process. There is OEM discount also applicable to the scrap vehicles. So this is on the vehicle scrap. We have looked at the Australia market, Europe market, how it is happening. Even in Australia till today, only the 30% ELVs are recycled, not more than that. In Europe market, number is, varies around 40 to 45%, I'm not sure exactly. But another thing which India is not looking at, the sale of, like Nishant mentioned right in the Flipkart, the sale of secondary products. So here the secondary spare parts can be a big market, which we have seen developing in Japan and Australia. I don't know how it will develop in India because there are quality and other issues, etc. So that's on the ELV part. On the battery part, we are just selling vehicles. So the battery recycling still has a time, but the batteries which are in the production and quality issues, what we are doing is we are establishing our own battery service center. At this point of time, the capability of servicing EV vehicles is not very high. So what we are doing is we are establishing our own battery service centers, and we have built a very closed loop process. So whatever comes in the battery service center will go through a battery recycling process. The other part in battery is there is actually no lot of refurbishing options available. It's very complicated also. How you take out the battery or cells and refurbish in some other application, it's very, very critical, but it will develop over the time. Another part is there is a lot of a startup ecosystem which is developing for the battery circular economy perspective. So a startup called Conclave, which is very new. So they produce a patented material, they call it Conclave, from the coconut shells. and which increases the efficiency, and you can the POCs there where they are saying that it can replace lithium also. So I think there is a huge push is required in Indian ecosystem on developing these startups on circular economy, because that's the real circular economy we are going to do. Yeah.
Excellent. That's a fantastic use case, by the way. I think probably worthwhile popularizing that a little bit more. So Thakur, auto industry, so probably this resonates with you somewhat. Can you maybe contrast this to how you guys practice it, and also maybe tell us a little bit about some of the key practices with respect to circularity at TVS?
Sure. So our strategy is like threefold. One is stretching the line, second is bending the line, third is closing the loop. So when it comes to stretching the line, which means make sure that you create an ecosystem of those vehicles where we can give a second life to the vehicle by refurbishing it. And that's how our investment into DriveX, which was a startup started by Formula 1 racer Karthik Narayanan. We initially invested and we see the value in it, and now it's our subsidiary. Where and our objective is in next 5 years we will have 1,000 such centers across India to bring that bike again into those centers, refurbish it, give it a second life. Why to send it for a scrap? So that is about stretching the line. Second is bending the line. In last 5 years, we have ensured that every bike which is going in a market, as you disintegrate the bike, 95% of the components are recoverable, 90% of the components are recyclable, and today 11 to 12% of the components already have recycled component into it. So that is about bending the line, which means that whomsoever is taking our bike, it should be in a shape where there will be some value to the components end of the life. Third is closing the loop, and that's where closing the loop aspect is coming, what you just spoke about, like using anything and everything around us, right from startups who can help us in terms of the battery and recircularity elements of the battery, or making sure that we can bring most of these components back into our value stream. So I'll talk about 3 examples. One, across our dealership, we have now tie up in a manner that regional vendors are going to give this material back to our supplier, because suppliers are ready to incorporate into the product as long as they need not to make an investment into the value chain, I mean the logistics, so that the costs remain into check. 2, startup like Trashcon experimented on a recycled plastic and gave us the recycled thick sheets, which we are using now in our 3-wheelers for passenger seat, which was earlier wooden element into it. So that is a great example. At the same cost, we are bringing into that. Then third aspect is in terms of keep experimenting on the material, alternative material, bio-based material, and PIR material, which is from industrial itself, how we can bring it back into the circular loop. So these are specific strategy and activities which we feel still it's like a tip of the iceberg. A lot of work has to happen at the bottom of the pyramid or in the bottom of the iceberg. So there's a great avenue, or I would say opportunity. There is a value lying behind it, and RVSF is going to, unlock more and more opportunities for us in terms of circularity.
Thank you. That's very insightful. I know we are running short, so Surya, just quickly for you. Your colleague Vaishali talked about how you guys are already water positive in, I think, 7 out of the 17 plants, if I remember correctly. But substantial progress that the group has made. So from your perspective, how do those programs and others, play a big role, especially with respect to textiles, because, it's believed that they consume a fair bit of water. So how do you, bring the textile ecosystem, is there circularity that you are able to practice? Can you sensitize your consumers and customers to greater awareness?
Yeah, it's very complex, but it's one of the sectors where there is a lot of follow-up from every stakeholder. Especially, there is a lot of NGO activism in this, and consumers' awareness is very high in textile sector. We have 2 businesses. One is our domestic textiles. Second one is our pulp and fiber, which are contributing in textile sector in Grasim. Grasim, by the way, has actually innovated recycled fiber Pre-consumer cotton waste, we have our own technology we developed, that is Liva Reviva. But the problem in this is this ecosystem still has a long way to go. First of all, there are reverse logistics, then collection, sorting, and then segregating so that we get the right quality of the material, and it won't hamper the quality of the end product, as well as it won't reduce the productivity of the process in the value chain. These are all still not matured. There is a lot of, it's in a very premature stage in the sense we haven't practiced and we haven't done so many tons or volumes of these products. So as we grow up, I'm sure this will also well-oiled value chain will bring in these all kind of issues into control. But currently what is happening is the key stakeholder in the textile value chain is the brands. And brands will have to understand that this circularity comes with cost, and they will have to understand how to pass on this cost to the consumer. They are right now what is happening and what we are encountering, the problem is they are looking at the manufacturers to absorb the cost. But believe me, in textile value chain, leaving apart the brands, rest of the value chain partners have single-digit margins. And that's why you also see that this textile industry, after every 5-6 years, keeps moving to one country to other country, especially the downstream, the garmenting and the fabric manufacturers and all, yarn manufacturers. They keep on moving the shops from one country to another country. China was earlier the story, now it's Vietnam and Cambodia. Prior to that, it was Southeast Asia, like Thailand and Indonesia and all. So India is always a self-sufficient country, but now India is also, I just came from textile Bharat where we spoke at, even ministry is trying to drive this. But the biggest thing that we require in this is two things. One is the ecosystem should be aligned, which is still very premature at this point in time. As I was mentioning, the reverse logistics is very important because manufacturing happens this part of the world, consumption happens in the West. So it has to come back, the waste has to come back. So it comes with cost. So that cost will have to be absorbed, which is not currently the place. The second thing is technology has to develop, and technology in terms of sorting, in terms of giving the right material for right blends and right material for recirculation. Otherwise, these all high-speed machines in the yarn and other downstream industries will not be able to deliver the productivity that is designed, those machines are designed for. So those are the issues. Having said that, we are now working with certain partners, like we are having we are mainly manufacturing MMCO, man-made cellulosic fibers. We work with certain NGOs like Canopy, which are like taking care of the forestry, and their main motto is to protect the ancient and endangered forests. So we are signing of that, and they keep monitoring our performance in that. And secondly, there is something called Fashion for Good, which works with the textile value chain, and they bring in all the new innovators onto the platform and provide them an opportunity to put in their innovation into value chain. So we are working with both of them, and we are trying to create a consortium. Couple of brands shown interest in joining it, like H&M and Inditex. So we are trying to get this consortium propagate this recirculation in textile. And MMCF is the right fiber which can actually do the circularity very well, because we use cellulose for the fiber, and every other natural material is having a cellulose can go into it. So the right technology is important to bring that cellulose, like be it jute, or be it agro waste, or be it any other natural products whose cellulose, if they can derive it and it can get upscaled into textile. So we are working in that, but it's a long way to go.
Right. But great to hear about the innovations that you've sponsored internally, which I think is the third theme, but we unfortunately won't be able to do this. Bipin, you guys have been working with the farmer community and so on, both to improve their productivity and in the Kalpavriksha program, etc. So can you tell us a little bit about some of your efforts in the supply chain, both with respect to circularity and also improving productivity upstream, so that the stakeholders can benefit?
Thanks. So I think just to give the context what the question is asked, one of our product is parachute coconut oil. And the question is probably related to that, and that's the reason I said we are the largest buyers of coconut oil in India. And if you combine India and Bangladesh put together, probably in Asia, the crushing capacities of the dry coconut would be the highest in Asia also. So when we realize that probably we are one of the key stakeholders related to the usage of dried coconut in India, we need to look at what can we do for the stakeholders who are operating in this space. And we started studying, we observed that you need to work at both level with your supply chain also, so that they understand more and then they are getting more benefits of the efficiency which you bring in. At the same time, the entire coconut industry is quite big. So you'll find that the coconut industry is tender coconut also, edible coconut which is used in home, and coconut which is used in confectionaries, and then the edible oil probably is part of it. So it's a big industry. So we have to do something for the entire industry also, so that the yield also goes up. So what we have done is that in our supply chain, we have started with something called as a collection center, where any smallholder farmer, so India is a big farming, however the personal land holding is very small, half acre to 1 acre. And that's the reason people are not resourced enough to drive efficiency in their own farming. And then they are not equipped to understand what is happening in the trade market. So we have a collection center where any small farmer can actually come and understand for his quality of a product, how much price is available in the market, and directly sell it and then get best practice out of it. So almost more than 45% of our procurement of coconut is happening through this media, and these people are directly getting benefit. So apart from only selling coconut, we are also educating them through some of the training programs which are happening in the collection center itself about the collective practices of these things. On the second hand, we realize that if you run a CSR program, then the opportunity to reach out to wider farmers is there. So we started the program called as Kalpariksha, which Viral talked about. This program, we have 140 agronomists who are trained on scientific cultivation of coconut. Now these guys go farm to farm, identify their problems, and provide them the scientific solutions so that their productivity increases for the same resources they are putting in. And we also observed that there is a 15 to 17% productivity has gone up for the farmers who have implemented our solutions, which is a direct economic benefit to them. So on one hand, you are getting specific social benefits, and since the solutions are more scientific in nature, there is a environment also getting benefited because of these things. So you are trying to create the entire ecosystem getting benefit of the knowledge we are able to impart. So till date, more than 1 lakh farmers are participated in this program, and they are getting direct benefits of this through their social, you can say, the economic increase as well as getting knowledge on these areas.
So impressive. I know we are out of time, so I just want to thank all of my panelists. What you've shared today is not just inspiring, but these obviously stories and examples serve as points of inspiration for all of us, and I'm sure all the participants feel the same way. So thank you once again for your insights.